Stock sectors, gold miners for October 17, 2025. This is Arvi Ramchandran. Okay, there is some really interesting action that is happening here in both gold and silver. In this video, we are just going to be highlighting what's happening in gold and gold miners because the last week to 10 days has seen a shift in sentiment. It is absolutely palpable how bullish everyone has gotten in gold just as we go vertical. Okay, so this is something that I think we have to highlight. So what I'm going to be sharing here is our both weekly and daily cycle analysis for both gold futures as well as GDX, GDXJ, and then four different individual miners that I think are interesting. Okay. And after this video, you should have a clear sense about what's going on across the both weekly and daily time frame here, and what I think is an opportunity actually setting up here in the short term in the gold miners and likely in gold itself. Okay, let's go ahead and hop into it. All right, so this is our both weekly and daily cycle analysis for GC. What you're seeing here is, as we all know, really, really strong. We moved out of that ascending triangle here out and up to the upside. Very important to note that we saw gold miners leading gold. Gold miners were already making higher highs somewhere in that August time period. They were already moving up. So what we had highlighted live in Future Speak was, is that a precursor to the move that is coming in gold? And obviously it was. So that's why it's so important to always follow gold miners, even if you are trading gold, because gold miners can at times lead gold. So what is really key here is to first see, what is the overall bias? The overall intermediate term bias is still firmly positive. We have not formed any obvious highs yet. We have a zone here from 43.30 up to 44.80. We have a low that is due here, right around 11.10 to 12.22. This is a bullish right-hand translation where we have used up most of that cycle rallying. It's leaving a short window of time for a pullback, which is likely to form a flag, after which we'll be looking for this to turn right back to the upside. So still overall very bullish on gold, but I want to share with you something that's happening here on the short term, which is a bit different. Okay, so if we look at this area right here, okay, this is right around our average volume, right? Just really eyeball it. Look at the change that has happened right here. All of a sudden, we're getting a lot of volume. And what is happening when we are seeing a lot of volume? Gold's rally has gone from more of a reasonable rally, right? Just moving up nicely, to all of a sudden, right here, when we started seeing volume, it went vertical. So there is actually a lot more contracts being traded into highs. So my sense of it is that we are getting a little bit of changing of hands in terms of inventory position at these highs, and those who are holding larger positions in gold may be using this liquidity to take some off. That may be what is happening here as it links to gold. This is something that I'm just watching right now, but it is really quite interesting to see the high volume also coincide with the almost parabolic move in GC. We were just at 3970. We rallied all the way up to 4400 in just how many sessions is this, right? This is in 6 bars, right? We went up over 10% in GC in 6 bars. We have gone vertical. Okay, so this is something that we have to be aware of, right? Always keep an eye on where you are in that sentiment cycle. What is happening with volume as as it's really doing what it's doing. These are giving you clear market messages that we have to internalize and really listen to. There's a trough here that is due 1027 to right around 1110. Okay, so that would also be inside of the weekly cycle timing window. Now let's go ahead and hop over to GDX. Okay, so this is GDX. On the intermediate term, very strong, right? There is a low that is due here, 9:15 to 11:24. Now, on the intermediate term, we have been left with this long shadow on the upside right through that 261.8 fib drawn from this key cycle low to that high to that low. So this went absolutely parabolic, but we do need to keep in mind, right? This has formed, this long saucer took years to form. So this move out of that is really not that crazy, but just in the shorter time frame, we're getting a little bit over our skis here on the upside. And what I want to show you is what's happening on the short term. Okay, so on the short term, look at what we have left. We have left a bearish kicker pattern here on the upside where you rally up, close at highs, and then the following day you actually gap away from that. That leaves a bearish kicker pattern right at that $85 level. So it says, there are now starting to see some sellers show up in GC and in GDX really for the first time in a little while. So this is something we have to be aware of. Now, what is happening in terms of the overall translations? They are still bullish, right? Bullish right-hand translation, bullish right-hand translation, bullish right-hand translation. Each of these cycles led to new highs, right? Is this one going to? We have to watch that very closely. The way I always look at trading in financial markets is about an auction, right? Trading is all about understanding the auction. As long as you're seeing higher highs, buyers will continue to be there. And conversely, as long as we're seeing lower lows forming, right, sellers will continue to be there. There is a change that happens when all of a sudden buyers don't get new highs. And conversely, there is a change of trend on the downside back to the upside, oftentimes when sellers don't get new lows. That will shift the overall behavior of traders. So that is something that we have to be aware of, right? Trading is just one big auction. And as of right now, we have seen every little dip all throughout this whole period get bought as only small moves back to that rising ribbon, right, which is our slim ribbon right here, the 8, 13, and 21 EMAs. Every little move down got bought. So what I am going to be watching closely here is this is our zone right around 78.30 to 74. Normally, we would see a move back to new highs versus 85. Do we see that, or do we see a shift in the auction here? Meaning, do we see a move down, and then do we see a little uptick that fails to make new highs and then curls back down? Right now, based on how we are likely to actually close the week based on that bearish kicker pattern, right? Based on that volume that we have seen in GC at highs. My lean right now is to actually watch for a lower high to form here and then to look for an opportunity actually on the short side just for a short-term opportunity. The overall patterns in both gold and the gold miners are extremely strong. I need to emphasize that this is just a shorter time frame opportunity, but this is something that I am watching now for our ASLM level 3 and 4 members for a trade idea. Let me now show you GDXJ. I just want to give you the whole picture on the intermediate term. Look at this absolutely massive saucer that formed in GDXJ. You saw a retest of that right here, and then this was off to the races. So what is happening if we zoom in a little bit closer, there's a low here that is due 922 to right around 1124. Also saw a rally up to the 261.8 fib, and it's leaving this shadow on the upside, as well as what we saw in the GDX. On the downside, we have this zone here from 93.96 to 82.56. Let's hop over to the short term. Same thing. We are seeing a little bearish kicker pattern, bullish cycle after bullish cycle here in the GDXJ. Do we make new highs versus that high there at 112.45, or do we see this zone hold here from around 102.30 to 96? See a little lower high form that would then shift the auction back to the downside just in the short term. And as you'll see here, there's a trough that is due somewhere around that second to third week of November. That would also sync up with the weekly cycle timing as well, right? So that makes a lot of sense. But this is just something that to keep on the radar. As of right now, in both GDX and GDXJ, what's the bias? Well, look at our indicators. Our RS on the daily time frame is still firm up, as is the slim ribbon. So the bears have real work to do here to prove to us that there has really been a change in tone. Right now, it's only one bar, but it is something that I do want to highlight as something that is on the radar, at least for me. If we now jump over to some of the gold miners, the first one I want to highlight is NEM, of course. This has also seen just a huge move up. I want to show you where these moves have come from. Look at that massive saucer here as well. Huge move up. Now, obviously, we have run quite a ways, but let's see what's going on. There's a low that is due 922 to right around 12.8. We have a 261.8, which it just missed at around 101. And let's see what's going on the short term. Same exact thing. We're seeing that bear kicker on the daily, a trough that is due 1016 to 1028. Watch earnings closely here on 1023. It says in the after hours. Again, use other sources to confirm that. This is a little bit different, right? We are actually seeing a little bit more realized volatility, meaning just moving up and down in terms of price that's happening. Throughout this whole way up, it was just, grind, grind, grind. That is how good trends act. When you see a lot of thrashing, as Slim likes to say, in an underlying at highs, that's showing you that we are getting into an equilibrium on the auction with both buyers and sellers. That's what it's saying. So this is where there is clearly a battleground going on here in NEM and in the gold miners. So we have to watch closely to see what direction does this market want to go, and we will be, as usual, following the overall cycle structures, which have been positive this whole way up and are still positive. 90.34 to 85.25 is the 38.2 to the 61.8. Is it able to move back to higher highs at 98.58 or not? Does it end up, doing a lower high move and then turning back down? That would be very interesting to me. Why? Because we have a clear risk area that says we are wrong on the idea, right? That is always absolutely crucial. And also understand, right? What is the bias right now? Clearly still positive. RS is firm up, as is the slim ribbon. Let's go ahead and jump over to the next one. I want to show you symbol B, that is the old Barrick Mining, okay, which obviously has since merged with Randgold, so they have changed their symbol a few times here, but you can see a clear multi-year base, right, that led to an absolutely wonderful move up that rallied all the way up to the 261.8 fib. If I get my cursor back, right around the 3490-ish area, a low that is due 922 to 12.1. Now the RS is still positive, but clearly a little bit of stalling that is happening right now in Barrick Mining. 3030 to 2840 are the closest levels. Jump over to the short term. Look at what's happening, right? We went vertical here on huge volume, and then no one was really there to follow through. It tried to move up, could not. So as of right now, I'm really watching this just in the short term to be a little bit of a rounded high. We'll have to see. We have a low that is due 1020 to right on 1029, 50 to the 61.8, 3250 to 3140. Watch that 78.6 closely. If it ends up selling down to that, that would be a sign of weakness about that next rising phase, that it would likely be weaker. So watch that 78.6 closely. That's around 3010. All right, so that's a look there at Barrick Mining. Jump over to FNV. FNV, another one that is lagging a little bit in the gold patch. Obviously, for years went sideways, broke out to the upside, and is now flagging. Let's just zoom in. We have a low that is due 10.6 to around 12.22, 198 quarter to 189.50. I think 189.50 is certainly, I would say increasingly probable here. So we'll just have to watch to see again what kind of rally we get. The weaker that rising phase is, and the earlier it fails, the greater odds of more downside. Okay, so we have to just, as usual, look at everything bar by bar here in FNV. A low that is due 1020 to right on 1029, but you can see clear weakening in that cycle structure. A little bit of a rounded look as it has turned down and moved back to the old swing low. So clear weakening that is happening right now in the short term in FNV. And we will now see RGLD. Again, I am showing you names that are starting to show a little bit of relative weakness. That is something that is very key to always monitor. If you are looking at longs, you should be looking at names that are showing relative strength. And conversely, if you are looking at shorts, you want to see relative weakness start to show up in that underlying relative to that group. That is really very important. There's a low here that is due 1027 to 1229. We have a zone here from 199 to around 211.60 that it is showing some signs of stalling versus. The RS is still positive. 187 quarter to 173.30 or so are the levels down. And again, there is that low that is due 1027 to right around 1229 once more. Jump over to the short term. On the short term, same thing. Clearly seeing some increasing volatility here as sellers keep coming in right around that 206-ish area. We have a low that is due 1015 to 1027, a 61.8 at 193.50, 78.6 at 189.06. Again, I'm showing you this because this is one of those names that is showing a little bit of relative weakness. If we look at some of the other names like AU, like EGO, those are still showing good strength in the group, right? So I'm showing you some names that are a little bit weaker to just keep on your radar. But really, all of these gold miners are going to act in a similar way. Although some will obviously be stronger than others, right? So this is why I am highlighting these names is because they are actually on my radar to the short side just for a short-term opportunity. Again, intermediate term, the overall patterns here are very, very strong. I just need to emphasize that once more. This is a short-term opportunity here. There is a low that is due 1015 to 1027, and watch closely how it acts versus that 78.6. If it moves below that level, that would increase the odds that you'd see a lower high and then another move down into that second to third week of November. Okay, guys, that's our look at the gold miners in this stock sectors video. I do hope it was helpful for you. I tried to really isolate what time frame I am focused on for these ideas, and to also emphasize, of course, that the overall intermediate term bias is still very, very positive. This is just a window of time here where there is likely some risk on the downside, but overall, we have moved up and out of multi-year bases in these gold miners, right? Those should be more durable in nature, meaning it isn't just, okay, move up and out, rally huge, and then sell off big. That's not usually how it plays out. Usually those hold for a while. That's why they have formed over such a long duration. Obviously, we have to always be flexible, right? Don't get too fixed in terms of that overall mindset. Always have our levels up and levels down that change the overall picture, right? That is so important. And use cues from the overall market, like volume, like doing trend lines, like what I've highlighted in this video, to help you to understand where you are in that sentiment cycle. That's such a critical thing to do, and it can really help you to understand where you are in that auction. Okay, so I hope, as always, that this was helpful to you. Please feel free to share any thoughts or feedback. Thanks again, and have a great day.